Well, Deb Murphy filed this report for Sierra Wave Media. The attorneys in the Donde Rossi case made their final arguments in court Tuesday morning. The case now goes to appointed Judge Philip Argento, who set July 28th as the date for his decision. Now, at the end of the session, Inyo County District Attorney Thomas Hardy asked that Donde Rossi be remanded into custody, stating that the former Inyo County Health and Human Services supervisor represented a flight risk. Now, said Rossi's attorney David Evans, it's astonishing this is raised at this point. Judge Argento denied Hardy's request. Donde Rossi is charged with embezzling $1.5 million in welfare benefits. Now, during his closing arguments, defense attorney Evans zeroed in on that amount in his defense of Rossi. She showed remorse when confronted, Evans said. She said, "I'm a bad person. I did bad things." But what's the scope of the evidence, the range of activity presented in court, end quote. Evans went on to argue the prosecution did not prove, quote, wrongful taking, end quote, in the amount of $1.5 million. The evidence doesn't show that, he said. Now, Evans conceded that a link between Rossi and some take was proven, and his client admitted guilt, but not on that scale. Witnesses in the case testified how the complex computer systems worked in Rossi's department. Evans focused on the lack of a direct link in the computer trail between Rossi and fraudulent withdrawals on the system's electronic benefit transfer cards. Now, in response to a question during a brief recess, Evans said the link had to be between the issuance of benefits and the take, as opposed to a link between Rossi and authorization or approval of the benefits. Now, back in court, Evans said the government's responsibility is to show proof in each charge. The documents don't back up the charges. Defense attorney went on to say that while guilt was proven in some charges, the prosecution concluded Rossi must have done it all. The government overcharged this case, Evans said. He also argued that there was no evidence of the Rossi's lavish lifestyle. You can hide hundreds of thousands, but not $1.5 million, Evans said. He also questioned the fact that Rossi's office wasn't secured until the day after her interview with Bishop Police Department officers and the Inyo County District Attorney's investigator, noting that potentially incriminating evidence was in full view, piled up on her desk. Is that a coincidence, he asked. Now, DA Hardy's closing statements sandwiched Evans. And he said the evidence shows Donde Rossi created phony case files, loaded money on the EBT cards, and used those funds for her own benefit. Again, that's DA Hardy. He went over the videos showing the Rossis making withdrawals that corresponded with fraudulent EBT withdrawals. She was the only one with access to these accounts, Hardy said. Now, he noted that a total of $1,567,496.53 was withdrawn on 37 accounts stemming from the, quote, phony case files, end quote. Hardy said, "We heard 3 witnesses testify that as the case files were closed down, not one person came forward and asked, 'Where are my benefits?'" As a rebuttal to Evans's arguments, Hardy said the defense's focus on issuance or approval of payments was a red herring. Either is acceptable as evidence, Hardy said. There is no evidence any other employee was involved. DA Hardy also said it is our duty to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, not beyond an imaginary doubt. The cases were opened and managed by Donde Rossi. Now, while some of the fund issuances were made when Rossi was not in the office, Hardy said many fund deposits were done automatically. In response to Evans' statement that the Rossis did not live a lavish lifestyle, Hardy maintained the prosecution was under no obligation to prove motive or use of the funds. He did say that between August of 2011 and December of 2012, $159,000 ran through the Rossi's account during a period during which her salary was $31,000 a year. Now, on the first day of testimony back in late February, DA Hardy offered a plea deal that would send Rossi to prison for 8 years. She turned it down. Judge Argento reminded the attorneys that there was still time to negotiate, asking them to, quote, consider resolving the issue over the money taken, end quote. Well, we thank Deb Murphy for that report. Deb also filed a story on Monday's technical group meeting between the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power and Inyo County, and that full story is posted on our website, sierrawave.net. Well, the Bureau of Land Management Bishop Field Office and the Inyo National Forest are implementing fire restrictions. The restrictions are in effect on all BLM public lands managed by the Bishop Field Office and Inyo National Forest lands, with the exception of certain wilderness areas. Now, said Steve Nelson, the Bishop Field Manager of the BLM Bishop Office, quote, this year's late season rain and snow produced a substantial grass crop that has created a continuous fine fuel bed to feed fires. The near to average winter was a welcome change, but it was not enough to take the edges off the drought and the potential for a severe fire season, end quote. Now, beginning this Friday, July 1st at midnight, and until further notice, restrictions will include no campfires, briquette barbecues, or stove fires allowed outside of designated developed recreation sites and specifically posted campsites or areas. A list of designated campgrounds and recreation sites available at visitor centers. Now, residents and visitors reminded once again that fireworks, even safe and sane, are not allowed at any time on our public lands. And that full press release is also posted on sierrawave.net. Well, the Marina fire north of Lee Vining remains at 654 acres burned and is 81% contained, with 474 personnel working the fire. Press release notes that thunder and lightning activity on Tuesday forced firefighters to retreat to safe areas while working on the fire. Now, the BEAR team, the Burned Area Emergency Response Team, completed the Marina fire assessment surveys on Tuesday. They are finalizing the burn severity map. Potential damage from erosion and debris flow expected in future storm events will be estimated using this map. Now, the BEAR team will coordinate with Caltrans as well as the Natural Resources Conservation Services to address slope stability issues on Highway 395 later this week. The investigation to determine the exact cause and origin of the Marina fire is ongoing. Statewide, nearly 4,000 firefighters are battling 12 wildfires throughout California. Again, please be careful with all fire, and a reminder that California has a zero tolerance toward the use and sale of illegal fireworks. You can get a full fireworks safety guide at that website, readyforwildfire.org. We'll be back with more news.